Hey everybody, welcome back to the Complete Game. I'm your host Kurt Schilling, and this is my co-host Garrick.
Going
What's
on,
up, G?
everybody? How we doing?
G, let's get right into it. A lot going on, All-Star Game voting, home run derby, blah blah blah.
You want to
Set
start?
us up.
We'll start with the American League, and talk about some of the guys.
What's up with the home run derby right now? Who do we know is in?
Uh, well, the home run derby we have set up. Who is in? I had it down here. Ronald Acuna, obviously, from being the home stadium's representative in Atlanta, will be participating, and then Cal Raleigh from Seattle, being the American League, well, MLB home run leader,
Right.
is also going to have his dad pitching to him. I think we mentioned that last time, which is cool. I also wanted to, is there anyone you'd like to see in the home run derby? Because I got a couple too. I'd love to see that kid James Wood from Washington. I love having a young guy in there,
Yeah.
like the year Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
Uh,
won.
so for me, it's always unconventional guys because, for example, Ichiro probably had as much power as anybody I
Yeah,
ever saw. And if he wanted to in a home run derby, he could hit 30, right? I want to see that hidden gem guy, the guy that people are like, what?
yeah,
That shows up. Obviously Judge,
yep.
right? I mean, I'd like to see, I don't think he's gonna do it. Because a lot of guys realize there are guys who have gone into second half slumps after doing the derby.
How much do you buy into that
I
thinking?
Well, it's a mental thing, right? You go into a slump because of the home run derby, that's all your own fault.
Yeah. But I
But
mean, do you think it mechanically does change? Because I mean,
well, here's the
it's a
thing.
little bit of the reverse of what you're talking about with the pitching problem with guys going 100%
Right,
every pitch. I
right.
mean, that's kind of what you're doing in the home run derby,
You
right?
can't understand how naked you feel out there with no batting cage and a full stadium. It's such a weird thing, a weird experience. And I think for some guys, for a lot of guys, it's intimidating. And it's just so different. I mean, the ones I remember McGuire at Fenway. I remember Josh Hamilton, which was,
Yeah.
oh my God, one of the greatest. Bobby Abreu.
Yep.
And it's always somebody like that for the most part. I mean, Alonso did his thing. I'm sure he's probably going to show up.
I want him in it too.
Yeah, yeah. But it's a feel thing. Some guys just can't do it because it's just not. And some guys, I remember, I think the year Jeff Bagwell was in it. Jeff Bagwell had monster power, but he wasn't a home run derby guy. Like he hit the ball with topspin.
Yeah.
So,
It's also you're not facing game speed, so it's
right,
a
right.
completely different.
Well, it shows you how hard hitting is, right?
Yeah.
You're facing a 65. So, and then there's the pitching guy. The guy pitching to you is under enormous pressure. And you talked about Kyle Raleigh's gonna have his dad, which is very cool. Um, but that he'll be nervous.
Oh, his dad will be much more
Oh
nervous
yeah,
than him for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And with the changed format and the timing thing, so yeah, it'll be interesting. And I mean, as a pitcher, I think it's like fascism. I don't want to see a home run derby. I hate seeing guys hit home runs, but man, sitting there watching some of that stuff is just takes your breath away. And the fans love it. So,
Saying the home run derby is fascist might be the most un-American thing I've
yeah,
ever heard you say.
from a pitcher, but um, I've come full circle in from the beginning of my career to now, where at the beginning of my career, I was part of the group of the day the All-Star game gets announced, every single media article is about who didn't make it, and they don't celebrate the guys that do. And I don't like that. I understand some guys will get cheated. Guys are going to get cheated every year. The expanded rosters have really helped. Um, you know, but it gets back to like the Hall of Fame. What is an All-Star? Because every team has to be represented, and I'm not sure every year every team has an all-star. So, but it's for the fans, and that's you've seen the voting, and we're down to the top two finalists. We're going to go through and the American League today. We'll talk about the finalists for the American League. Um, First two guys, Otani and Judge, are both locks. They're in. But we'll start. Let's start behind the plate.
Catchers with Cal Raleigh, previously mentioned, and Alejandro Kirk in
So
Toronto.
Raleigh with 32 homers, who, by the way, is on my fantasy team. Um,
If you haven't heard by now.
right. having an amazing year, and a switch hitter. He's on pace to smash the single season home run record for catchers and switch hitters both, which is insane. And then Alejandro Kirk snuck up on me. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't realize he was hitting 310.
Yeah.
Um, and his, a sabermetric stat, which I'm kind of a fan of, is the hard hit rate. Over 56.5%, fifth in the league. And he's been the most valuable defensive player by fielding run value. Now, defensive metrics are still kind of in their fetal stage, but
For catchers, it's
well, for anybody, right? Because there's so much ambiguity around. You have to measure range, which is how many steps,
well, but they also catchers are have the exclusive positioning of being involved with every single pitch.
Right, right.
So that's a little bit.
But the most valuable defensive player in the big leagues by that metric is also hitting 310. I mean, and then, if
I mean,
you,
just talk about that for you as a pitcher. Like, what is that sort of confidence like when? I mean, obviously you've had a bunch of different catchers, but when that guy is also a bat in the lineup, like
right,
how much better does that
it's
feel?
awesome, but it's not ever a consideration. My consideration is, can I throw a split-fingered fastball with a runner on third and be comfortable my catcher's
Yeah,
not going to let it through?
yeah.
And he clearly is one of those guys. But if you're looking for a team that you might want to think through for the second half, uh, talking about Kirk, let's go to first base. Final two, Vladdy with Goldschmidt,
Yep.
who, by the way, again, both those guys are on different fantasy teams of mine. Paul Goldschmidt was going to have this year. You don't put guys like that in New York and not expect them to have the seasons they're having. Hitting 288 with a 778 OPS, and he's been monstrous for the Yankees who have had injuries.
Also, just a rare Yankee that I feel like a lot of people like.
You're
Like
right,
he's a likable dude,
right, very,
even in the pinstripe.
right. Vladdy's at 282, 387, 450 with 11 homers. His 327 expected batting average, which is another sabermetric number, speaks to kind of the bad luck he's having on balls in play.
He had a slow start to the year too.
Right, right. But he's his father's kid, boy.
Yeah, he's a horse.
Second base, Gleyber Torres from Detroit and Jackson Holliday, who everybody was kind of down on last year after he struggled to start. He beat out Altuve for the second spot. Um, and Tiger fans are showing up in droves, so you're going to see the Tigers littered throughout this, which is good. It's the way it should be. It always is that way anyway. Um, Having a great year for a team that's going to be in the postseason, I think.
You have him in the World Series.
Yes. Uh, and another sabermetric stat, his 520 expected slugging percentage is his career mark is 368. So he's clearly getting after it. And Holiday's becoming the player that I think people thought he was going to be. Third base, Jose Ramirez, who just keeps, I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's special. 318, 378, 516, 20 stolen bases, seven more homers his fifth straight 2020 season. One of those guys who just quietly goes about being a Hall of Famer every year, and nobody talks about him enough except for
And just a guy that you look at him and you're like, how does he get that done? Like he is just a freak athlete.
Yep, yep. Tied with Alex Bregman, who I don't imagine will play,
Yeah.
but
Spent
who
some
has
time
been
on
a
the IR.
monstrous pickup, and a lot of questions around Devers and Bregman's future. A lot of people don't think he's going to resign. Uh, And then we get to the position that I think we're in another run of, when I came up, it was A-Rod and Jeter and Garcia Parra, uh, uh, just shortstop after shortstop. If they weren't offensively studs, they were defensively in Vizcal and Iglesias. I mean, just special. But right now, we're in kind of a special place. You got Jacob Wilson, who's leading everybody but Aaron Judge at hitting 347, leading last year's AL MVP runner-up by a 500,000 votes, Bobby Witt Jr., who's, you're pretty good when you've got 21 steals, 40 extra base hits in 80 games, and people are talking about it's a little bit of a down year.
The guy's a
Uh,
lightning rod too. If you watch him play, like
yeah,
you can
yeah.
tell he's one of those guys that baseball wasn't a thing my dad signed me up for. He loves playing the game. He's a dirt dog.
I do like one of the stats. There's a sabermetric stat called outs above average, which is another one of those things where he has 15 more outs than the average shortstop, which means he's gotten to more balls, made more plays. But that'll be a fun one to see because both those guys should be there. And then we keep on with the Tiger theme as we head to the outfield. You got four outfielders: Riley Green and Javier Baez, probably one of the feel-good stories of the year, along with Mike Trout, Steve Kwan. Trout is not having a Trout year, but Trout is someone the fans want to see, and I have no problem seeing Mike Trout in the
Yeah.
All-Star game. Kwan, underrated, I think. Riley Green, sneaking up on everybody. Javi Baez is the big one, right? I mean, that's uh, he's just turned it around. He had three horrible seasons after a big contract. And he's finally coming. Well, he's the player a lot of people were hoped he would be when he signed the deal. Trout was out for a month. Still got 12 bombs in 54 games. First ballot Hall of Famer is vying for. We were just talking about this before the show. Vying for his 12th All-Star game.
Yep.
Uh, Quan last year entered the All-Star break at 352 with as a leading hitter. This year he's hitting quote unquote only 307 with a 372 on base percentage and 800 OPS and has apparently the most valuable outfield arm in baseball. Lot of all-around players, which is really cool. At the DH spot, well, would have been Rafael Devers, who got traded. Ryan O'Hearn and Ben Rice. O'Hearn is having a great year. A guy who it was designated by the Royals in 2023,
Hmm.
designated for assignment, and he's had three good years with them, with the Orioles. Hitting 301, another one of my fantasy free agent pickups, by the way. Ben Rice, also on my fantasy team. Rice's 489 slugging percentage, first full major league season in the big leagues. His 49 slugging is highest among qualified DHs. His 14 homers are too shy of Brent Rooker's, um, but he edged Rooker out by 25,000 votes. And then we're going to talk. We'll talk about the NL on Tuesday, and then Friday we'll probably go over that because the teams won't be decided till then. But the pitching and everything will be more dictated by the commissioner's office, just because. Well, I mean that's just
It's player vote and it's
right.
commissioner's office and it's balancing
Right.
of pitching arms
Right.
from
They're going to want
managers
to
in the
pick all
league.
pitchers that are available because they don't want to have a 2002 All-Star game ever again. And I want to mention a very sad story. I grew up in the 1970s as a Pittsburgh fan, Steelers and Pirates. And one of the greatest Pirates to ever play the game, I think one of the best defensive right fielders to ever play the game, the Cobra, Dave Parker passed away at 74. He had uh, oh, I'm going to forget Parkinson's and was not well. And one of the reasons why I want the ballot out of the writer's hands is Dave Parker should have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago. And Dave Parker will now not be around to thank and talk about why and who he was as a player. And I think that's tragic. So another vote to get the writers out of the process. But and I will tell you this quick Dave Parker story. I am pitching in Milwaukee in 1990, and I was facing Gorman Thomas, who was this was back when they had just a stud mashing lineup. And I was facing Gorman Thomas, and I got the ball back from the catcher. And when I got the ball back, I happened to kind of peek on deck, and at my periphery, I saw a purple and yellow sledgehammer being swung like it was a fungo bat by the largest man I had ever seen. It was it. I can't begin to describe. He was making the sledgehammer look like it weighed 20 ounces. And I grew up a Pirate fan. I knew who Dave Parker and the Cobras. He stepped up to the plate, and he was the largest, physically the most intimidatingly large human being I've ever seen in my life. Um, so hats off to a Hall of Fame career and Willie Stargell told me that Dave was one of the greatest teammates he ever had, one of the best men he ever knew. So, rest in peace, Cobra. And there. So,
I had a couple quick
yep.
questions transitioning out of that. We had a couple from the YouTube and then a couple that I just came from reading YouTube comments. One of them is from JD Hampton 14, and he was asking about he said, "Hey guys, love hearing you talk baseball. I've been coaching Little League the last couple of years. I'm an older father teaching 9 and 10-year-olds. I was a catcher, and as a kid, Bob Boone was my favorite. My question is about teaching pitching. How should these young pitchers be holding while throwing the ball? Two seam, four seam. My thought is four seam is easier to control as a young kid. Two seam when you're 14 or 16 years old."
So, a good question. First off, it doesn't matter. They don't throw hard enough for the ball rotation and the seams to matter to make a difference. I think it's easier to control a baseball holding two seams under your finger. But the kids at that age, you're going to notice something. The ball is too big for their hand, first off. So you get their fingers, and by fingers, I mean the first cut of knuckle on you know what? Where's my ball? I have a ball up here. Where's my ball? Oh, right
Stand
here.
by.
Yep, right here. Right here. Uh, so these seams right here, or any of the seams, but put those under the knuckle, this first knuckle, right? Because you're talking about kids whose hands don't come close to controlling the baseball. Same thing as you get into the early teens. They're not throwing hard enough. Let's put it this way. A sinker from a 12-year-old is due to lack of velocity, not ball rotation and spin, right? So I would, and the other thing is, this is how you want every position player on the planet to throw a baseball, four seam, right? So whether they're pitching or not, you're teaching them to throw with the seams. And then the only other pitch you teach them is the changeup, and that the changeup at that age, you just take the power finger off the ball. Take this finger off the ball and you can put the two seams here. You can put them under the second knuckle. Usually that's with the kids with the small hands. Take this finger off the ball and put the middle fingers on the four seam. But their hands are not big enough for them to manipulate a baseball with I don't care how hard they throw. I really don't. Your kid might be a flamethrower for a 9-year-old, but it still isn't going to matter. The ball rotation spin rate to the seams is not going to make the ball sink. That when for the most part, most kids that aren't potential big prospects, and this is how I teach every young man to throw a baseball as a pitcher anyway. Unless you have a sinker that drops that much, you throw the four seamer because it's easier to command. So, good question.
And then Tim Palmer had a question about a hypothetical trade to help two teams struggling in specific areas.
Right.
Paul Skeens for Jackson Holiday. Obviously, a big name trade. But the thought behind it would be the Baltimore Orioles are horrifically bad in every major pitching category, which we highlighted a couple weeks ago. And on the other side, the Pirates can't hit the ball. Their
Right.
best hitter in terms of OPS is Andrew McCutchen, which
Right.
is ridiculous. So.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of the hard part about is those types of things don't typically happen.
Well, and a lot of us look at this as fantasy managers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like Paul Skeens. And listen, if the Baltimore Orioles would take the deal and do Jackson Holiday and two other studs, if I'm the Pirates, and I hate to say it like this, I love watching Paul Skeens pitch, and I've said it a bunch of times. I don't think he's going to be around and be who he is when they're competitive, if they're competitive.
So if you're Baltimore, you would do it. Or if you're Pittsburgh, you would do it.
If I was Pittsburgh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
If I was Baltimore, no, I think Jackson Holiday is going to be a special.
The reason I ask also, and like this is one of the questions that came to me as I was reading this, is another guy we highlighted and talked about today. You're talking about his 12th All-Star selection. I want Mike Trout out of LA. I want him out of the Angels organization. Like watching Shohei Ohtani go from Anaheim to down the street has completely changed not just his career, but MLB. The game.
Absolutely. Well, think about it.
And it's what, a 45-hour and a half long.
But think about how little attention was paid to him in Anaheim. He was doing the same things.
Yeah. No. He was doing more.
Right.
He was pitching.
Right.
But that's so the question I have and the thought that came from that is I've thought this 100 different times about the Phillies and Mike Trout. Just get him. Like he wants to play in Philly. He's a Philly guy.
Can you imagine?
He hasn't taken a playoff at bat in 11 years.
No.
Like, do you understand? And you're my dad, so I understand that Mike Trout is one of the better baseball players that has touched
Ever,
a baseball
ever
field
lived.
ever. Period. End
Yes.
of story.
I said if he
Mo
stayed healthy, he'd be the greatest player anybody alive ever saw.
more kids today I bet you more kids today know Shohei Ohtani, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto,
Yep.
like anybody besides Mike Trout because he is buried in that organization that has not seen in October
Right.
since I was in college,
Right.
which is insane.
Right.
I
No.
want him out. I don't know how you make that happen, but
This is the deadline you do it.
That's what I was going to ask because I also like I brought up Rafi before that happened as in a sort of Jackson Holiday, Paul Skeens type.
Right.
I thought that was kind of fantasy land when I said that. But I said it because of the drama around him playing first base.
Right.
There's no drama like that, but I mean, and Trout has made statements about like he doesn't have an inkling to be traded.
He's coming around. He's healthy. He's hitting. You're not going to get what you would have gotten for him 5 years ago. But so what? I've never bought into the team owes it to you kind of thing, right? Like, oh, you should like in hockey.
You don't?
Ray Bork.
I was gonna say you don't think that?
No, I didn't. But like the Ray Bork thing, yes, I get that, right?
Marchand, most recently,
right? Like, well, but see, Marchand won cups in Boston,
won a cup,
right? But they traded him because they were going nowhere and blah, whatever.
That's the team giving him what he's owed, I believe.
It takes a special relationship to do that. Because and I think Artie Moreno's that kind of guy, the guy that owns the Angels. I think in his mind he would think, you know what, I want to do right by Mike.
But I think that and Mike being that same type of guy from all I know about him is the reason he's also been like, I'm not trying to screw them on my way out. I've been here for 12, 13 years. It's my home now.
So,
but I want him in the playoffs.
Right.
So
listen, if I'm the Angels, I say, okay, go to Philly first because that's
imagine just and because some of them are going to be gone next year, but imagine Schwarber, Harper, Trout in the middle of that order. That'd be awesome. That'd be so cool.
Well, the other thing is, if I'm the Angels, I say, listen, you can have him for Andrew Painter.
And with Philly, you kind of have them in a chokehold because the minute that gets out, that's being discussed, Philly is going to jump down your neck to make that happen because they want that.
Right. There will be a segment of Philly fans who are like, F no.
Well, yeah.
Andrew Painter's our number one pitch. Andrew Painter's going to be, better than Mick Abel.
Well, when you play in a Phillies, Yankees, Red Sox organization, there's always going to be another side.
But if I'm the Angels, I say, yeah, Andrew Painter or Mick Abel, and the deal's done because you're not going to get more for him, right? And I don't say that to disrespect Mike. It's just where he's at because it's physically, unfortunately, and it breaks
the back half of his career, not talent-wise, but numbers.
This is 12, 13 Jr.'s end of his career, right? Because he was a first ballot 100% Hall of Famer his whole career. Had he not been hurt most of his second half, the numbers would have been he might be the career home run leader.
Yeah,
right. Mike Trout, same way. And I look at Trout to Philly like I look at Goldschmidt to the Yankees. Mike Trout's not going to underperform.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He's 1 for 14 all time in the playoffs. Like, can you imagine if he got to play in Philly?
Right. No, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
That's on my wish list for this season. All right, you want to play Put Us Together? Or you got anything else?
Mid Cape 533. You asked about the playoff runs. We'll get into that next couple episodes. Garrett will remind me, and we'll bring that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll do each as their own episode.
So we're gonna do guess my teammate. Let's roll. And I nailed you on.
We're gonna put us together. This is putting two guys together.
Okay, so explain the game.
So this is.
Let me throw you on camera. So Garrett's got a new game, and it's actually kind of cool. The first.
I'll give the first one as an example. So the game is called Put Us Together. It's two athletes, or two people from separate walks of life, usually, and their names run together. So, for example, the first one was a guy who played college basketball for the LSU Tigers, and both guys were 6'6", and the other guy is the current record holder for the hardest hit ball in the StatCast era. They would be Shaquille O'Neal Cruz. So it's a guy whose name transitions into another name very seamlessly. All right. So for this week, we have a current MLB player and a former teammate of yours. So mashing up the game a little bit.
Okay, so hold on. A current NBA player?
Current MLB player
MLB player.
and former teammate of yours.
Okay.
So a little bit of a mashup of the
Okay.
games. All right. So this clue is for both of them. We are both World Series winners within the first 2 years of our careers. The current MLBer plays outfield and is a dual threat. The former MLB player and your teammate only played 5 years, but made one All-Star team. Any early thoughts rattling around in there?
No. Read me the clue again.
The shared or all of them?
Both.
The shared clue is we are both World Series winners within the first 2 years of our careers. The current MLBer plays outfield and is a dual threat guy,
What does that mean?
power and speed.
Okay.
The former MLB player and your teammate only played for 5 years, but made an all-star team in that time.
All right, next clue.
Next clues. All right, shared clue for both of them again. Neither of us has played a single game in the American League. The current MLBer, coming off my career year in 2023, I injured my leg and was sidelined until this season. The former MLB player, although not recording an at-bat on the 2001 World Series run, I was made a starter for the first and last time going into the 2002 season.
Uh, the former guy only played 5 years.
Only 5 seasons. He was on your 01 team, and for the first and last time was named a starter in 02.
Gosh, dang it. I had one. I know it's not it, but the one I was going with was Cal Ripken Jr. Spivey.
Close.
Uh,
You want another clue?
yeah, I'm having a hard time with this one.
I was rookie. This is the current guy. I was rookie of the year in 2018 and MVP in 2020 when I stole 73 bases and had 41 home runs. And then your former teammate, I was a key piece in the trade that brought Richie Sexton to Arizona.
'41 and '73. 41 homers set. Why don't I know? 2023.
MVP, a guy we have mentioned on this
Right.
podcast.
So
You have the other guy. I can see the best part about watching this right now is that please put the camera on yourself because it's so funny to watch you struggle with this because you know the guy and you've said his name at least twice today, I think.
oh my God.
This is exactly what I wanted to because I knew you would get your other guy, and the connector is like you should
41
have
73 is Acuna.
Ronald Acuna Jr. Spivey.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
There you go.
I wouldn't have gotten it because I didn't realize Acuna was a junior.
Yep.
Damn it. That was a good one.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right.
We'll be
Thanks
back
for
on
listening.
Friday.
See you guys on Tuesday.
Tuesday. Shoot.
Take care.